Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Mike Beer with producer Lucia helping us out with a preview of the Sunday race of the day. So we head on over to Del Mar for a look at the Grade 2 Eddie Reed. Remember, you can get free past performances for every race of the day on the website, DRF.com. I will say, Mike, so far the first couple of weeks of Del Mar, they've had some really nice racing, good big fields, competitive action. I think in this race, you can look at horses like Formidable Man, Gold Phoenix is probably the top tier contenders who have been pretty solid the last year or so. I mean, for Gold Phoenix, we're talking about a horse who's won the Del Mar handicap 3 consecutive years. He absolutely loves Del Mar. And Formidable Man was probably a little disappointing in the Shoemaker mile last time when he was favored, but he is a multiple grade 1 winner in himself.
Yeah, it's a really good field. Those two horses, maybe they are the logical starting point in here. Two really nice horses, and as you point out, they're both in good form. But man, I just felt like a lot of different horses could win here.
Yep.
I mean, this is a really well-matched field, and just feel like trips will be really, really important here. This is a good race.
Well, Formidable Man and Gold Phoenix probably have the best resumes. It's not like they overwhelm the rest of the field. Like their best races aren't so much better than the best races from other contenders in here. Let's see what Timeform US thinks as far as the pace projector is concerned. I want to give some love to Cabo Spirit too, Mike. He's a horse that I wasn't always the biggest fan of, sort of like a speed horse that you knew what you could get with. He has run 3 consecutive really good races, and he is in career best form right now. So expect to see him close up. Balladeer, when he's in races, he wants to go. That's when you probably handicap intent a little bit for speed horses, because those 2 horses are horses who want to be pretty close up.
I agree. I wonder how much pressure Balladeer tries to put on Cabo. I feel like Cabo Spirit's going to the lead in here, and that'll be interesting to see how much pressure Balladeer elects to put on him in this race. We'll see how fast they go.
I think naturally, too, Formidable Man is one of the more tactical horses in this race. He was just too far back in a race where they were flying last time. I wouldn't be shocked to see him sitting 3rd or 4th, just a lot closer in here than he was last time out. Let's meet the field for the Sunday race of the day, the Grade 2 Eddie Reed. Dicey Mo Chara is a Grade 2 winner, but a horse who just hasn't been in win form recently, Mike. 0 for the last 14 and has been behind Aitlin, Cabo Spirit, Balnikhov, Gold Phoenix. You just see a lot of the common rivals in front of Dicey Mo Chara here. Can you build a case or make an excuse for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many excuses you can make for him. I mean, even though he hasn't won a race since December of 2022, it's not like his form has tailed off terribly.
Nope.
I mean, he's still running really competitive races. He just happens not to be winning. I mean, to me, he's not the kind of horse who you would look at. You may not want to bet him in here, but I don't think you'd look at him when the race was over. And if he was 1st or 2nd, you'd go, how'd that happen? I mean, he's in really, really good form still. He's just not winning races.
2 starts back in the Whittingham. He was only defeated a neck that day. He's now going to go 3rd start of the form cycle. And he's the type of horse who could get forgotten about in this race, right? And all of a sudden you look up and he's like 15, 20 to 1 or something. There's way too high of a price. And you're not thinking that he's that far behind some of the others. So keep an eye on the price for him, especially with Juan Hernandez jumping aboard. Could be live and you could get a nice ride there. Balnikhov is the next one. He's a multiple graded stakes winner, but he's 0 for his last 7. He kind of reminds me of Dicey Mo. Like, he's not up against it with one of his better efforts. He just hasn't been really showing up with some of those better efforts as of late, his last 3 or 4 races. But he has run a 99 buyer speed figure over the Del Mar turf course. And if they go quick early, he will come running.
Yeah, his real issue is just that it's his running style. He just doesn't have a lot of speed. He's always at the back, and he's always got a lot of horses to pass, and that just makes things really hard on him. He's a really good horse. I mean, I feel like I've done a million of his races on these videos. I love Balnikhov. I'm his biggest fan. Every time he's in a race, I want to use him. If I'm not betting him on top, I'm using him somewhere because he's really good, and his form recently may not look great, Gino. It's not as bad as it may seem. 3 starts back in that Pegasus World Cup. He had a terrible trip in there and actually ran really well. They tried to go 1.5 miles with him in the Elkhorn 2-back. He did not get a good trip in that race either. In the dinner party last time, that course is listed as good. It was not good. It was way softer than that. So I don't know. I feel like I could dress this horse up. I'm always trying to dress him up, but I could dress him up, and I'm using this horse.
And I will say, he hates Santa Anita. His connections have said that too, which is kind of strange for a horse who's based in Southern California, where they're racing 7 months of the year at Santa Anita. But when you go through his form overall and you isolate the Santa Anita turf races, he just does not run well there at all. And that's a lot of the form that he has. So you can really pick through his form and make him look a little bit better. And he's another that he could be a really fair price in here. As we move to a Aitlin, we have one of the 3 horses that comes out of the Shoemaker Mile, Mike. That was a Aitlin, that was Cabo Spirit, that was Formidable Man. I thought a Aitlin and Formidable Man ran kind of similar races. They were really right next to each other. Formidable Man was on the outside. A Aitlin was on the inside. He might have had a little bit more traffic to deal with. So I think between the two of them, Formidable Man was 5-2 in the Shoemaker Mile. A Aitlin was 18-1. If this horse is a much higher price than Formidable Man, he would be one that I would look to include just based on value, because we saw right there with similar trips, they could be on the wire close to each other. I think this is a sneaky horse, and he might be moving in the right direction because he's a 4-year-old with a little bit of upside.
I'm not going to argue with any of that stuff, Gino. I think it's the proper way to look at this horse. He will be a price, and he didn't run that much worse than a horse who's going to be one of the favorites in here in his most recent start. I struggle with the Shoemaker Mile as a race overall. And so I'm kind of trying to fade those horses in here, the ones that are running back in this spot. They're all good. They're all really good horses, and they can all win here. I'm just trying to fade those horses. You can't like them all, Gino. You got to sort of make some decisions. The Shoemaker Mile is a really tough race for me to evaluate, because like you, I thought the pace was solid. If you look at the time from USPPs where they, color code the pace for you, they got it color coded blue, like it wasn't a fast pace. I thought it was fast. And you can see in the replay, everybody was closing, not just these horses. The whole field was closing. It just made it a really tough race for me to evaluate. I'm going to try to fade these horses.
Because generally you're on the right track when there's that blanket finish. A lot of the times I just chuck that race, and we don't know how strong a race is when they're all separated by a length and a half or 2 lengths. So that's usually the case to go. And it's a tricky read, the Shoemaker Mile, with a couple of these horses coming out of. One of them, Formidable Man, who we just saw in there, just did not, you could tell early on, he was not getting a great trip in that race, though. He was wide, he was way towards the back, and he was just farther back than he had been normal. I think that was because of the presence of Goliad, who was just going a little bit quicker than Formidable Man had been going in races prior to that. He got a fantastic ride in the kill row. Snapped you and I that day, I think, with Zio Joe. I feel like we liked that horse that day a little bit at a really big price. But he's certainly capable, and I think he's one of the horses to beat in here.
Yeah, I agree. And it was kind of surprising to see him that far back in the Shoemaker Mile last time. And he just really couldn't make up enough ground there to really be a factor. He ran fine in that race. His prior races obviously make him a contender in here. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'd love to bet him at some kind of short price, if he's one of the favorites, but he can win.
And both of the horses who I think will take a lot of money, the 4 and the 5, they love Del Mar. They love this turf course. You can see with Formidable Man, he's 4 for 4. And as we move to Gold Phoenix, he's a grade 1 winner. He won this race back in 2023. I mentioned he's won the Del Mar handicap 3 straight years, and he's also a 4-time winner over the Del Mar turf course. He's going to sit back. He's going to make one late run. I've gotten a lot more respect for this horse as he's gotten older, because he's actually run well in the Breeders' Cup 2 straight years where he's finished pretty good 4ths there. And he's just a horse who you kind of know what you're going to get from him, Mike. He'll sit, he'll make one late run. And if they go quick enough, he'll come and get him. And he's a pretty classy old 7-year-old.
He really is. He's run nothing but good races. And I feel like the first inclination sometimes when you look at him is that, he wants to go farther than this. He's a, 1.25 miles or 1.5 miles horse. And I don't think that's necessarily true, Gino. I'm glad that you brought up he won this race 2 years ago.
Yep.
They ran him in this race last year too, and he ran great in there against Johan. I mean, that he got totally stopped in the stretch of that race and then ran at the end. I felt like he was really unlucky that day. 9 furlongs is not too short for him.
And Johannes was pointing to this race, but he's actually going to go over to the 4-star Dave. It looks like run for a little more money and for a grade 1, try to get himself a little bit better money, and for pedigree, another grade 1 there. So this race, not quite as difficult without that rival from last year, Johannes. We move to Stay Hot, who'll make his second start as a 4-year-old. I think we have a replay, Mike, of his win over at Lone Star, which was kind of interesting because he's never really been a horse that they put right on the front end. He's had some races where he sat close, but put him on the lead in here, and he was able to win. He got headed a bit, but he battles back. And this was a good start for his first race as a 4-year-old. But when you look back at last year, he wasn't that far behind them, but he was still a little bit below, a cut below Formidable Man. I think a Aitlin, when you look at their overall body of work, for me, he's the type of horse who price could dictate how I use him, because I don't think he's that far behind some of those horses from last year. But if he's in the similar price range, I probably want a little bit of value on him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they bet the race because I'm kind of with you. Like I know that he was behind Formidable Man a couple of times. He was behind a Aitlin in the Twilight Derby last year. I felt like this horse was a little bit compromised in
Agreed.
most ways. I think he ran at least as well as those horses did. I
Yep.
really liked him as a 3-year-old, and I sort of thought he was underrated. You know, I guess you look at his 4-year-old debut. You know, does the Texas Turf Classic form sort of match up with these horses? Maybe it doesn't, but at least in the case of Stay Hot, he did move forward to a 94 buyer. And there you wanted to see him run faster. He did run faster. I think he was better than he looked last year. Source is interested in here. If he's the right price, I'm going to use him.
Yeah, he could set a pretty good trip. Could project him maybe
Yeah.
sitting third or so behind a couple of those speed horses. Stay Hot, second start as a 4-year-old, moving to Cabo Spirit, multiple graded stakes winner. And as I pointed out, 3 straight races where he's thrown a 96, a 96, and then a 99 buyer speed figure. So that is career best form for him right now. I mean, he looked like he was going to win the Shoemaker. He was fast early, then he sat second while Goliad ran off a little bit. He moves to the lead. He's battling with me, Hermano Ramon, and then King of Gosford nails them both like right on the wire. So I don't really have a whole lot to knock about Cabo Spirit's recent form. You kind of know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, I agree. He's probably just going to come out of there running, try to make the lead here. And it's not like, you know, I know they've been sort of concentrating on a mile recently, but he can get 9 furlongs. The horse can do just about anything. It's just really nice to see him back in form, Gino, because it felt like he was really good. I remember really liking him as a 3-year-old. He
Yep.
was okay at 4. He lost his form completely there for a little while. He's back in form now. He can win this race.
And rounding out the field is Balladeer. He's a grade 3 winner. He won that grade 3 a couple years ago. And I remember thinking with the speed that he had that he was just going to be a major presence in races like this. And he's over his last 10 since he hasn't been able to get back to the winner's circle. There have been a couple spots where on paper he really did look like the lone speed. I will say his last 2 races, he's at least rounded back into form. In the Whittingham, he was 4th behind a Aitlin and Dicey Mo Chara. He hit the board in a softer renewal of the San Juan Capistrano there. Feels like a pace player, but I don't know if he's as quick or as sharp on the lead as Cabo Spirit is right now.
I agree. I think it's a tough situation for him with Cabo Spirit in the race. First of all, I just think he's better going longer. I do think
Yeah.
he wants, you know, those longer races where the paces aren't
Mile
as
and a
fast.
quarter, mile and a half, right?
Yeah, they really suit him better than these shorter races, especially Cabo Spirit here is going to ensure that this pace is not slow. I mean, they might not be flying, but it's not going to be slow. And I think that works against Balladeer.
So as we move to selections, Mike, thought a couple different directions you could go. Formidable Man, Gold Phoenix. They're probably the measuring stick horses for this field. And Gold Phoenix, who you're going to land on, has run really well at Del Mar through the years.
I think he makes a lot of sense in there. Yeah, he likes this turf course. The distance is no problem for him. You know, Gina, I'm gonna bring back the Eddie Reed Exacta from 2023. Gold
Nice.
Phoenix over Balnikhov.
There we go. 2023 and 2025. I'll put a Aitlin on top. Maybe we can get a little value there. I very much think that Formidable Man and Gold Phoenix are the horses to beat. Growing a lot of respect recently for Cabo Spirit and how sharp he's been. So for Mike, 5-2-6-4. For me, 3-4-5-7. Whoever you play, however you play them, best of luck in the Sunday race of the day.